Hello, my name is Sophie Holder, Executive Officer at De Montfort University, and I want to welcome you to another talk in the Anti-Racism series. Now, if this is your first time joining us, the Anti-Racism series is a year-long set of lectures and presentations that focus on issues of race as they relate to different fields in academia and beyond, as well as ways to oppose and counter racial prejudice and systemic racism. Now, as you may know, yesterday was International Women's Day, which is a global day that celebrates the cultural, political, and socio-economic achievements of women. And to those achievements, I would also add just existing and navigating the world as a woman. Now, yesterday's theme for International Women's Day was breaking the bias, and today's talk was planned to coincide with that, the idea of a world free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination, a world where difference is valued and celebrated. And because of that, I'm excited and have the privilege to introduce Shrina Dasani, who is a fixed income trader working in the field of asset management. Now, Shrina is a local girl and brought up in a working class family in a town just outside of Leicester. And she is now one of the only Asian women traders in leadership for the second biggest asset manager in the UK. And while I can and will read off some of her other achievements, such as being recognized as a future leader in the asset management industry, sitting on the committee for the BNY Mellon Women's Initiative, and also being a mentor at Key for Life, what has struck me most about Shrina as we've prepared for today is just how personable she is, how passionate she is about encouraging women of color to achieve, and how she has also achieved and overcome so many things in her own life in a short period of time. So I won't spoil any part of her talk, but what I will say is that after Shrina's presentation, she is keen to answer any questions from the audience that may help them to succeed as women in work. So be sure to write your questions in the chat box. We'll get through as many as we can at the end, but I won't delay any longer, as I too am very excited to hear her speak. So please let me introduce again Shrina Dasani as she talks about surviving and thriving as a woman of color in leadership.
Thank you, Sophie. That was like the loveliest introduction that I could have asked for. Thank you everyone for coming today and good afternoon. As Sophie said, my name is Shrina Dasani. I work for a company called Insight Investment, which is a large asset management company based in London. As Sophie said, I did come from Leicester, and I've come from a working class background where my parents immigrated from Tanzania and India. So I had absolutely no clue what the world of finance had to offer. All I knew when I was younger was that I wanted to go off and travel around the world and just explore. So I did that at the age of 18. I went backpacking around the world, moved to London when I was 19, and joined the School of Oriental and African Studies. I studied economics because at the age of 18, surprise, surprise, I didn't know what I wanted to do. All I knew was economics was a great degree that was broad, and I could do various different careers with it. So I wanted to go straight in with how I got my foot in the door with banking, because I didn't have anyone guiding me. I didn't know anybody in the industry. I didn't have a clue what investment banks did. So I've always been a bit of an opportunist, and there was a company, a recruitment agency called SEO London. It still exists today, and it's made to assist and help people from underprivileged ethnic minority backgrounds get their foot in the door for investment banking and a career in law. So I went to this talk having no idea what any investment bank does. I knew that I didn't want to do law because I'd already gone off and done some work experience and realized law wasn't for me. And when I got to the talk, I felt a bit intrigued and inspired, and I thought, wow, actually, I wouldn't mind trying investment banking. So they had just launched an internship. It was a mini internship for 2 weeks for 30 students that they would select for 2 weeks, where you got a chance to mingle with all the investment banks. They taught you what goes on in investment banks, what different roles there were, and what particular areas could interest you. So I applied because, again, I was enthusiastic about learning, and got selected. So there was 30 students and probably over 1,000 applicants. And I go to this internship, and it's a room full of Oxford and Cambridge students. And I was sat there thinking, wow, everybody here is a lot smarter than me. But then I remembered that I had a seat on this table because someone had seen my CV and really believed in me. So I made use of that opportunity and contributed towards all of the investment banking tasks and exercises that they had. They had various representatives come in and talk about what investment banking was, what life would be like if you were to do a job in investment banking. And then later on in the evening, we had a networking session, which at that time, I think it was the first time. I was 19 and it was the first time that I'd been exposed to any kind of networking. And as you may have gathered, I do like talking to people. And so I used that opportunity to really get to know these people who were working investment banking. And I went around the room and I just asked them loads of questions. What is it like to work in banking? What do you do? What's your day-to-day like? What do you hate about it? And back then, there was no such thing as LinkedIn. You guys are lucky right now because actually you can just go on LinkedIn and add someone. Back then, it wasn't like that. I had to get everyone's business cards. I would go home, email them with my CV and say, it was great to meet you. If you think of any opportunities that you think I'd fit in with my CV, please do let me know. And it was a very manual process back then where you had to keep in touch with people to really get your foot in the door. But I wanted to keep my options open because I didn't know whether banking was actually for me. I didn't really have a full feel for it, but I knew that it could be a career that I could go down. And that paid off because during the summer, I landed an internship for 3 months at an investment bank called Credit Suisse. Initially, it was for 2 months and they thought I was so good at the project that I was working on. They kept me there for another month. And that basically paid for my rent in London. So I was like, yeah, I'll definitely do it. And I sort of kept in touch with all of those people that I'd been talking to at SEO and at Credit Suisse, the internship that I'd landed. I then went on in my second year and worked for a company called WPP, which is one of the biggest marketing firms in the world. And then I finished my third year and did an internship with the BBC. And from there, I did process of elimination and started to figure out what I like and what I don't like. And then I figured that, right, I'm going to start applying for jobs because I've graduated now. And the financial crisis hit. And ironically, the only people that were recruiting were investment banks. So I dug out all of those contacts again and went back to all of the banks that I'd met during the SEO event and Credit Suisse and said, look, I'd love an opportunity. If you have anything going, please, could you consider me? And at this point, I remember being like, nobody has a job. We've all just graduated and we're in heaps of debt. All I knew was I wanted to carry on living in London, but obviously I couldn't live in London without a job. So I finally got a call back from the head of a department that I was working in for Credit Suisse. And I'd been bugging her. And I remember sending her email saying, please, if there's any opportunity, please, can you consider me? And so she rings me and within 10 seconds, she says, you've not got the relevant experience. And I was just like, no, I'm not taking no for an answer. And I was just like, it felt like the elevator speech that you hear about where you have 30 seconds to really sell yourself. And I was just like, no, I'm a really fast learner. If you just give me this opportunity, I can put all of that experience that I've had from the internship and place it into this role, and just give me one chance. And she didn't say anything. She just put the phone down. And then she actually set up an interview the next day. So it worked. And I think she probably heard my desperation on the phone and my enthusiasm for really learning and being keen on this job. The job was in back office. So I don't know if many people know about banking, but you get back, middle and front office. Back office isn't really an investment function, but at that time, I just wanted my foot in the door and I just wanted to prove that I could do it. And then I knew that I'd be able to make it onto the trading floor, but I just needed that chance to step in. Eventually, my role, which was a contracting position, it was only for 3 months, was actually made permanent. So I went for my position, my own position, and I knew I was really, really good at my job. So I went for my permanent position and was turned down because somebody else who had no prior knowledge about banking or experience, who literally was a white male from a middle-class background, and he knew the head of department's niece. He was her boyfriend, and he got the job, and I then had to train him for the job that I had been carrying out for the past 3 months. And it felt like a stab in the chest. Like, I can't emphasize how demotivating that was. But thankfully, my manager at the time had a lot of faith in me, and she saw the work that I was carrying out, and she knew that I'd been working 8 in the morning till 9 at night. The managing directors of the trading floor sang so many praises for me. I had all of these supporters, yet I wasn't given my own job. She recommended me for a position, and thankfully she did, on the trading floor, which is where I'd always wanted to be. And I'd wanted to be there because I love the buzz. I love the fact that traders, each day something is different. I love the fact that, I could help with the traders and be closer to the investment team. So I was given a position as a trading assistant. I was by far the youngest on the trading floor. I was one of the only ethnic minorities on the trading floor, and I was one of the only women on the trading floor, supporting about 20 white male traders in a team of 6, again, all predominantly white males. So as you can imagine, I did stick out like a sore thumb. But this was my opportunity, and I just wanted to prove myself and kind of be that person and trading assistant that I knew that I could be. Unfortunately, half of my team were made redundant, and when I asked where my career was going, I was told that I wouldn't become a trader. And it was only 2 years into this job, and I realized that this is a dead-end career for me, because actually they're never going to make me a trader. So I decided to leave. And this was in 2013, and I decided to join a smaller company. And the reason why I joined a smaller company is because I wanted to be thriving. I wanted people to notice my work and see that I was doing a great job and be praised for it and be given opportunities. I didn't have that at Credit Suisse, because you are one of thousands of people globally. I mean, it's a great company to work for and to start your career in, but I realized that my personality, I really wanted to make a difference. So at that point, I got a job offer from Goldman Sachs, which was another investment bank. And I got a job offer from Insight, the company that I work for at the moment. And I decided that Insight was a small enough company for me to make a difference and for me to be heard. So in 2013, in September 2013, I left Credit Suisse and went to join Insight Investment. And the universe, behold, said, right, you need to stop, because I got diagnosed with cancer 6 weeks into starting my position at my new company, Insight Investment. And I remember thinking, hang on, I've just made this massive career move. I'm finally at a place where people are going to recognize me. I can thrive in my career. I'm finally being appreciated for the work that I'm carrying out. And it went from thriving in my career to surviving, just surviving, as in trying to live, and making decisions based on my health at the age of 25. Again, being thrown into the deep end of where I hadn't known anyone who had had cancer before. And so my life did turn upside down. And for a year, I was off sick, basically recovering from treatment. And then I came back to Insight. I had a really supportive manager. And at the time, I just felt so behind. I felt like I was a year behind in my career. I just wanted to be in 6th gear, and my body was just telling me to slow down because I hadn't fully recovered. So I had 6 months of slowly getting back into work. And I remember speaking to my manager at the time, and I said, look, I want to be a trader. And he said, Shrina, I think you need to first do this job role, because you've not actually done this job role yet, and this is what you're recruited for. And then I said, yep, I know, I will do this job role, but I'm just letting you know where I want to be and what I want to be doing, where I'm heading. So he said, okay, do you know what? Let's put you on a couple of projects. So I said, let me do a project where I can really prove myself, and in that way I can expose myself to the people around me, to different teams, within my company, and I can start getting more of a feel for how the company works, how the business works, and get closer to the investment team that I want to be a part of. So I did that. And again, I would walk into meeting rooms, and in the beginning, I was never heard. Honestly, I remember walking in and being surrounded by 6 males again. And again, I don't think my voice was ever heard. And that had to change because I wanted to thrive. So I started staying late after work, writing down my points, presenting things, having trading analysis ready so that my next meeting I was well and truly prepared. And I didn't want anyone to question me and not have the answer. Or if I didn't have the answer, I didn't want to take it away and then not come back with an answer for them the next meeting. And so I would always go over and beyond in the beginning, because what I was trying to do was build my reputation to say, I am a very good employee. I'm very good at looking at the bigger picture of the business, and I'm very good at projects. So give me the next project, because then I can really excel and I can show everyone what I can actually do. I think I continuously went on to proving how worthy I was, that it eventually became that we were launching our business in New York, and they wanted me to go to New York and kickstart the business over there. So that was a massive project, from me going from being ill and then starting off with the first project and trying to work my way up. And obviously I still wanted to be a trader. So this was around 6-7 years ago. My now manager, I took him to for a coffee all those years ago, and I said, look, there's a position on your team. I'd be a great trader. And he said, okay, what I'm looking for at the moment is someone who's got experience and someone who has those contacts with investment banks, because when you're actually trading, you need a good relationship with investment banks. And obviously I didn't have those contacts. So understandably, I said, okay, but next time, can you please take me on? And I really sat there listing my strengths of why I thought I would be a good trader. I think after cancer, I think one of the biggest lessons I learned of being bedbound for 6 months was that I became fearless. I realized that if you didn't ask, you would just not get. And in this industry, people are a little bit skeptical and to ask for what they really want. And I'm sure it's like that for a lot of other people. But I thought, what have I got to lose? If I actually say that I want to be a trader, then my career path can be geared towards that way, and I can be working towards that. Right now, I may not have got it, but I did eventually get it later on. Unfortunately, I didn't get that position at that time. But I did get recommended for maternity cover for an investment team position. Now that was working really, really closely with the traders and the portfolio managers. So I was like in between all of them, and I realized that actually I've got this exposure. I'm sat next to them, I'm learning a new role, and the head of fixed income trading at the time recommended me for this position. So I thought, do you know what? It's not my linear path that I want to be on, but it's a way around it. I can start learning about the investment process. And I absolutely nailed that job. That I was given many, many projects. And then I started pitching my ideas one by one to different heads of departments. And I started getting myself recognized. I went up to key people and had difficult conversations about ideas that I had that I'd never been traded before at Insight. I said, do you think it's a good idea? I got feedback. And then eventually I ended up pitching to my CIO, my CFO, and my CTO, which was a massive deal. I remember walking into that room, and I think there was 15 white males. And I remember being absolutely nervous. But what I knew at that point was I'd already had these challenging conversations individually with these leaders, and I knew that they had supported me. Otherwise, they wouldn't have given me the time of day. So I knew deep down that I was doing a good job and that I could get through this meeting and do my pitch really, really well. It was very daunting, but it was a success. Fortunately, slowly, I started getting my reputation up, whereby my voice started getting heard in meeting rooms. I felt like whenever I was on a new project, though, and I entered the room, I still wasn't being heard. I still felt like I needed to prove my seat on the table. And funnily, Obama's administration, and during his administration, which I don't think even was long ago, he had a male always repeating a woman's point. So if a woman made a point in a meeting room, there would be a male repeating exactly what she said. And funnily, I started noticing that my colleagues became parrots. And I remember sitting there thinking, why are my colleagues repeating everything that I'm saying? But it was because I wasn't being heard. And every time I got an email with the meeting notes, I didn't see my points on there. And I remember thinking, why are they not listening to me? So I became quite stern. And every time my notes from the meeting were missed, I would go back and say to the project manager, you're missing my point. And I would re-emphasize 2-3 times, as well as having my colleagues repeating what I'm saying, just so that my voice was being heard. I also know that there was no issues with anyone else's voice being heard in any of the meetings that I was going in. So all of these years of working so hard and proving myself really did pay off. I've had many conversations and difficult conversations about emphasizing where my career is going and what I'm actually gearing towards. I remember my male colleague coming up to me and saying, I don't understand why you're working so hard, because you're not going to be getting paid for the work that you're carrying out after hours. But I knew deep down that eventually I would get the position that I want to get to. I just had to show something different. Now, I don't know if my male colleagues have ever done the same thing, whether they've had to prove themselves. I don't believe they have, but I've constantly been told throughout my whole career that I need to prove myself before I've actually got the position that I've gone for. So what I started thinking was, right, what is my unique selling point? My unique selling point was always thinking of new ideas and being able to really execute those ideas by leading projects and being in that room, in those meeting rooms with those people. I knew the whole back to front process of a trade that no one else had worked in, so no one else knew. And that's something unique that I was giving to the table. And so every time I would be in a meeting room, I started getting asked, Shrina, what do you think of this? And where do you think this fits in? And a lot of the times I didn't have that voice before, and it's come over years, and that opinion and kind of being asked that question has come from a lot of experience of being stern and being consistent and showing that I can do a really good job. So I guess now you would all want to know how I've eventually got here. I've been working for the company that I'm at for about 10 years now, and this is my third role. I absolutely love where I work. And as Sophie said in my introduction, I was sent on a future leadership course. And it was absolutely brilliant because it gave me the confidence to have those difficult conversations of where is my career going next. I took each one of the males, the heads of the departments, into a meeting room, and I told them exactly what I wanted and where I wanted to be, what wage I wanted to be on, and why I think I'd be so good as a trader or a portfolio manager within the investment team. In December 2019, I got an outstanding on my appraisal, which was unheard of. So I knew with the desk heads all praising me, I knew that I was actually doing really, really well in my job. So once I'd had those difficult chats, which I think we all put off, and I think women find it a lot more difficult to have those difficult conversations, particularly about pay or where they want to go next, or just having those difficult chats with higher up males. I decided that, I was going to start looking for a job elsewhere if they weren't going to give me a job and my next step in my career. However, those talks actually paid off. And in July 2020, during the pandemic, I got offered a position on the trading floor as a trader. I also got this offer straight to me. It wasn't advertised. They came out to me and asked me if I wanted the position. And of course, I said yes. But I didn't say yes without my conditions. My conditions were, I have a lot to bring to the table, and this is exactly what I want as a fixed income trader. This is what I want to learn. This is my 5-year plan, and this is where I expect my pay to be. The reason why I did this is because at this point in my career, I have changed jobs quite a few times. I've proven myself quite a few times. I have done those late nights, and I have been told to prove myself a number of times. So this time I wanted to know what my worth was, and I wanted to know, what are you going to do you're coming out to me. You are telling me that this is the job for you. We're giving it to you. I want to know what you're going to give back to me. So I absolutely love my position at the moment. During the pandemic, I started coming in because my head of trading is an amazing trader, great manager, and I wanted to learn from him. So the best way to do that would be to go and sit next to him and have that one-to-one time with him. I went out on my own to build my relationships with those banks, because I knew that with business and in business, it's always good to put faces to names, and really started learning how other people tick and how I wanted them to trust me. As Sophie said in my introduction, I sit on the Women's Network for BNY Mellon, which is the company that is, that my company comes under. And I really want to advocate the change and be the next change of how the industry is shaping. I know that in finance, especially, we're seeing a lot more women, and we are seeing a lot more ethnic minorities, but I still think we have a lot more to do and a way to go. I wanted to start concluding my talk by saying that I think a lot of us think that there is a thing called an overnight success. But what overnight success looks like is this. It looks like someone who's given up a lot. There have been times where I felt really lonely in London, where I've questioned whether this is the career for me. I've worked really long hours, given up my social life, asked for plenty of opportunities, had to deal with a lot of men saying inappropriate things to me. I have failed many, many times, but I have believed in myself even more when I have failed and got back up. I just wanted to conclude with just key takeaways from everything that I've learned in the past 10 years or so. As I said in the beginning of my career, I actually didn't know where I wanted to be or what I wanted to do. But the way I did that was by going out there, going for interviews, doing internships, and really having a kind of trial run at these different industries. If you don't go for an interview and put yourself out there, you won't know whether you like the company or you like the people that you work with. I remember going for 5 rounds of interviews at Goldman Sachs, and I remember thinking, I can't work with these people. I'm going to be here for 12 hours a day, and I don't see me fitting in their culture. And so when I turned them down, it was fully the right choice for me, because I wanted to be part of another culture, which was Insight, and a more homelier, a smaller company. And that's what I was looking for. Network. And I said in the beginning how I started my networking by taking business cards, but right now it's so easy. You have LinkedIn. You can go ahead and ask people on LinkedIn if you can meet them for a coffee. You can ask them for advice. And there are plenty of people who are like me, who would be willing to help you and just give you a little bit of advice. You have nothing to lose if you ask for something. And I have asked for a lot. And everything that I've asked for, I've finally got. But if you don't ask, you won't get. If I didn't ask and I was too scared to ask, I would never be here today. Think about your strengths and always write them down. We all know our weaknesses, and sometimes the weaknesses overload the strengths, but always write down your strengths and play to your strengths. I know my weaknesses. I just know how to play very well on my strengths. I don't know if you gathered from my chat, but I did have a lot of supporters and individuals that were backing me. And I knew that. And I just feel like you need to find your supporters, and you need to find them outside of work as well. It's all well and good having them in your business life, or if you're in academia, that's great. But outside of work, you should also have your supporters. You should have your friends, your family, your partner, telling you can do this. So find those people and always surround yourself with supporters. I've always had a mentor, because it doesn't matter where I go or how big I get to, I know that I'm always going to need advice from someone else who's been there, or who can advise me or guide me. And it's great to have multiple mentors in different parts of your life, but make sure you have at least one mentor. And lastly, I wanted to say that you should always believe in yourself. I have had a lot going on in my personal life. I think I've faced many challenges as a woman of color in finance, especially when I started out. And I think it's taken years of me speaking up for myself and really believing in myself to actually get to the position that I'm in now. And when you believe in yourself, I feel like that energy comes off, and I feel like everyone around you will start believing in you. So the first kind of work you have to do is it's on yourself. Thank you for listening to my talk. I'll hand it back to Sophie now, who I think has a couple of questions.
Oh, I have a lot of questions. Sharina, people are really loving the talk. Thank you so much. I knew it was going to be inspiring from the moment that I asked you to send me some information about yourself. So one of the first questions that I have is from Ene, and she says, fascinating to hear your story, Sharina. In a male-dominated arena, those tough situations you describe, how have you found the drive to get up and to continue being the best version of yourself?
So I'll give you an example of what happened when I was at Credit Suisse. At Credit Suisse, I was a lot younger. I was a graduate, so I didn't even know what to expect. I had a man come up to me and he said, "Why the F are we paying you?" Right. And that is in front of 20 other white males that I was supporting. And I remember going home and crying. Mm-hmm. And then I moved to Insight, and my old manager at the time, he swore at me in front of everyone. And at that time, I thought, no, I know my worth. So I'm going to take you into a room, and I'm going to tell you that is not how to speak to me. So I took him into a room and I said, I don't want you to ever speak to me like that ever again, not in front of anyone else or behind the scenes, because that's not how I want to be spoken to. I feel like I always go home, because sometimes you're quite angry at what you've been through. I always go home and I think about what's happened. I always write down all the points that I want to make. I calm myself down. And then the next day, once I've slept on it, I go back in. But the thing is that what people have to understand is your career isn't going to go like this on a graph. Your career will go like this, and sometimes like this. And it's knowing that sometimes it's okay to have those down days, because there is going to be a time when you go up again. And it's having that faith. And I think that I am constantly one of those people that want to go like this. Mm-hmm. But I finally kind of told myself that it's not always like this. And sometimes it does go down, and sometimes it just plateaus. And that's okay. I think also, just to add on that, there are different times in your life where you may not want to carry on, right? Because you may think that my personal life is a mess. I don't want to go into work. But everything that you're feeling, or everything that I'm feeling, I know is short term. I know that things will get better. And having that faith, because you've been through it so many times and those cycles, you start having faith that things will look up again. And that's when you just have to keep going.
Do you think that you had that clarity before you got cancer? That kind of really strong confidence in yourself, or resilience, or that, do you know what, this is short term?
No, definitely not. Cancer has taught me a lot of things. I feel like when I went through cancer, I came out, and when someone said to me, you're going to laugh at this, when someone said to me, you can't do this, I sit there and think, have you gone through cancer? Have you been in a male-dominated environment where people are shouting at you? Because if you haven't, then don't come and tell me what I'm capable of and what I'm not. And I think it's the life experiences, which I think it comes over time, where you realize that actually you don't need to have faith in me. Not everyone's going to have faith in me, but I've got enough faith in myself. So yes, certainly I think cancer did play a part. of having that confidence in myself.
Okay, so we've got a question from Kashika, and she said, what would be the one single most important thing you would advise your younger self to do to progress as a woman of color in an environment, again, dominated by white men? Because that is very much the playing field of academia. There are a lot of white men, and we're trying for diversity, but I think in many industries, that is still the reality for so many women.
Yeah, I think the number one advice I would give to myself is to stand up for yourself. And with that, know your worth. I think that it is daunting, right? You go into a room and you're consistently surrounded by white males. And trust me, I get it still. Sweaty palms, nervous, butterflies. You will never see it on my face. Ask anybody, because you have to fake it. Even if you're feeling that way, I would say to my younger self, go in there, be confident and be prepared. But never see it as a threat, because you're there for a reason. You've been offered that seat for a reason. And therefore, be your unique self, because actually it's a good thing when you've got diversity. You're actually going to be thinking differently to the rest of the people. And that's what I know. When I walk into a room, I'm from a working class background, I'm Asian, I'm a woman, and I'm pretty young compared to the rest of my colleagues. But what I'm adding is there are things that they've not thought of. And it's basically because we've come from different backgrounds. And I think coming from a different background, you can really play it to your strength.
Okay. Are there any things that you would regret? Do you look back and think, I wish I would have done that a bit differently?
Yeah, there's always regrets. Do you know when people say, no, I don't have any regrets in my life? Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree with that either.
No. Like, my first one would be, I don't know if this was a career. I didn't ever plan on this career. It basically just ended up panning out that way. And so would I have been happier working for the BBC? I think maybe so. But do I regret? The thing with me is that I think I've tried so hard to get to where I am. I'm so appreciative of where I am now, because if I was given this opportunity when I was 22, I think I'd be thinking, now what next? But because I wasn't, and I've come from, literally, I went from the bottom and worked my way up. It's been such a gradual process that I feel like, no, I don't regret anything or the way I've done my career so far, because I feel like I've always been an opportunist and I've always asked for an opportunity, and finally I've got there.
I mean, I definitely thought that when I heard you, I'm like, this woman will keep on asking. She is very much going to be fearless and very proactive. Yeah. And I guess in terms of another question we had was in terms of the resilience that you had, which you said was key. What support structures have you kind of set up around you to help you have that resilience in those situations?
Yeah, so I think that's a really important question, because I talk a lot about supporters, right? As an example, I have friends who are also in finance, and I will get their feedback. When I'm having a chat, I will rehearse what I am saying to them. The other thing is women really need male supporters. I can't just have female supporters. If I'm going to make a change in this world, I need my male allies to be backing me right behind me and saying, yep, Shreena's really good. And I basically take the time out to make one-to-one relationships. I'm very good at building relationships on a one-to-one level and connecting with people. I would say outside of my life, I have, because my parents are from working class backgrounds and they have completely normal jobs, so they wouldn't understand the nature of the industry that I'm in. I would therefore have I have about 5-6 best friends who all will know what to say, listen to me. I will write it down and practice on them. And so that's in my personal life. And in my work life, I have my mentor, who is an Asian woman, but then I also have white male allies who will listen to me and respect me and give me that platform. And if I ever need backup, I know that they're behind me, supporting me. So I think it's really, when you enter any industry, I think it's really important as a young person to go and find those supporters and build those relationships.
Okay. I think the next questions that I'm going to answer, I'm going to fuse together because I think they fit on really well onto that in terms of the networking, which you have said has been so important. How
Yeah.
do you find that network of people within an industry that, number one, either it might not be the career that you're familiar with,
Mhm.
it's one that you want to get into, or as an ethnic minority where there might not be other people like you working in those industries? How do you make those links?
Okay, so number one was going to SEO London really helped me because SEO London gave you that network and therefore you had a chance to actually network with other people. I'm sure that DMU has a number of events like careers events. People will say at the end, do you have any questions? There is absolutely no harm in going up to people in person and saying, hey, by the way, before you go home, can I ask you these questions? Because I'm really interested in. And I've had people come in and sit with me at work and do work experience with me because they really wanted to see what it was like to work in asset management. At university, it's great because you have your university who have, I'm presuming, like a careers department or people coming in to have a chat. So you can actually go to as many chats as you want to meet these people. Secondly, I would say LinkedIn. There are a number of people who will come out to me on LinkedIn. It's not always great because some people won't actually give you any advice, and behind the screen it's a lot easier. But what LinkedIn does do is you can follow companies, and when companies have events on, they post it on LinkedIn, and you can sign
Mhm.
up to those events in person. So I know a lot of banks have events, and they're really encouraging ethnic minority people to enter banking. That's something that you can also sign up to.
Okay. All right. So moving on from, I guess, from finding the network, how do you kind of transfer that into a mentor? Like, how do you get a mentor? How do you actively seek out those people or find those recommendations?
Okay, so a mentor is really important. I'll tell you why. Because number one, I feel like they're going to be your rock when things are down. And the question you asked me before, how do you keep going? Well, I keep going
Mhm.
because when I have my down days, I go to my mentor and say, hey, can I have 5 minutes of your time? Or someone said something to me. Like the other day, I just felt like everybody wanted me to trade for them. And I felt a bit overwhelmed. And she said, see it as a compliment, but say no. And I remember thinking, yeah, because they're all coming to me because they know that I'm so hardworking. And she was the one that brings me back down to reality and tells me, this is what you need to do. And this is how you need to manage it. Funnily, she's never said to me or never been part of a mentor program or anything. I went up to her because she was passionate about changing things for women at Insight and at BNY Mellon. She was a senior woman. She was very good at her job. And I just really liked her as a person. And I said, hey, Kathy, can you be my mentor? I've asked women before, and I've had other mentors before, and they didn't quite suit me simply because I didn't feel like I gained as much. So what I
Mhm.
would do if I'm looking for a mentor, which is what I did, was really research what you want to get out of it, who would give you the time of day and a real mentor relationship, and um, someone who's you have to have someone who's similar or in the same industry as you, because really that's where you want the guidance. Someone who's made it and who's a bit older and wiser and been through a lot always helps as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's always great to have a mentor. And actually, someone said to me once, you should get a mentor that's a white male. And I said, why? And they said, well, because you need to know how they're thinking, right? So how would you know if you're just surrounding yourself with the same people as you? What you need to do is
Mhm.
break that barrier. And we can do that one by one. We can get a male mentor and get them to start seeing it from our perspective. Change is always two ways. So I think who you select as your mentor, I think takes a lot of thought.
Okay. All right. So don't be too hasty in who you
No,
pick.
don't go
Okay.
around. I wouldn't say go around asking anyone and everyone to be a mentor. I would
Mhm.
say do a little interview process in your head. Like you're selecting this person, and not everyone's going to want to be a mentor, and that's fine because some people just don't have the time. But
Mhm.
selecting a mentor for your career, and getting that extra advice is very, very crucial, I think. So I think select very carefully.
Okay. I want to pick up something that you said earlier on in your talk, which I thought was very interesting. So
Yeah.
you talked about taking a smaller role in a company when I think, let's be honest, most people would have just heard Goldman Sachs and been like, that's the one I want
Yeah.
to go for. You know,
Yeah.
name brand, everybody knows it.
Yeah.
How do you know when it's that time to perhaps take a step back or to maybe go in another direction when it feels like this might be not the one that everyone would expect, or the one
Yeah.
that you feel is going to be the biggest step?
So, Goldman's, they came back to me and they ran me back and said, no one declines Goldman.
This is it.
Do you know that?
This is it.
And I
Yep,
went,
I'm sure.
I'm not silly. I know Goldman's. I've just worked for another investment bank. The opportunity they were giving me was working 13, 14 hours a day. Fine, because I was 22 at the time. We all know that's the culture of the industry. Fine.
Mm-hmm.
I was tired from Credit Suisse. They had made all of my friends on my team redundant and left me to do all of the work. I was already exhausted. So I was asking them, what exactly am I going to be doing different to what I was doing previously? I didn't get an answer. Neither did I get an answer to, okay, well, these people, I don't know if I can see myself working with them. And there comes a point in your life where you think, am I doing this for my CV or am I doing this for myself and my sanity? So my risk was I go to a smaller company and I don't get Goldman's on my CV. However, I'm a lot happier because my career is going where I want it to go. I wanted it to be in a smaller company. I wanted to thrive in a smaller company. I wanted to be a woman of color and be seen in a smaller company. Would I have got that from another investment bank? The answer then was no. So that's the reason why you've got to be at a point where it's like, am I going to carry on doing things for my CV, or am I going to actually take the jump of where I actually want to go next, and what do I see myself doing in the next 5-10 years?
Mm-hmm. I think that's so interesting because I think so often, and I mean, I watch a lot of finance films. So commonly, I think when in the world of work, when we're trying to build our career, we see thriving as financial. So if I'm going to go for that big job and I'm thriving, well, I'm going to get more money. How have you redefined thriving as you've gotten older and you're working in an industry where no longer it's about
money,
having enough money to get by? The money's there. What does thriving look like now?
Okay, so thriving is so different to our parents' generation. My parents would be like, you graduated, who's paying the highest, right?
Yes.
I don't want that. I want to be happy every single day. There are people who work in these banks and they say, and I meet them, I'm going to meet them tonight and tomorrow. They will say to me, but by 40, I'll retire. I don't care because I don't know if I'm going to live until I'm 40. What I want to know is, am I going to be happy every single day working with those people for up to 11, 12 hours a day? Am I going to be happy with that? Secondly, am I going to be happy with the role that I'm carrying out? Am I going to be happy with the wage that they're giving me? It's like a whole circle of, kind of attributes as opposed to just one. And the thing about pay is, it depends on how money orientated you are. Now, in finance, you do get paid, right? Like, it's one of the leading careers that you can go into to actually get paid really, really well. I have always struggled and have had these conversations because I always feel like in the team, I'm paid the least. And so I have this story where I'm like, hang on a minute, am I being paid the least again? And what I do is I go out to different recruitment agents. I find out how much I should be getting paid and then compare myself to the market and say to my boss, look, this is what everyone else is paying. This is how much I could get paid elsewhere. Why am I not getting paid this much? I think the formula for me of thriving is having a voice, is being happy every day, is enjoying my role, is pay, is wanting to get up every day. I used to work out in banking and I used to think, I can't get up today. Life is just too difficult. And you do not want to be rolling out of bed and strolling into work, walking across the trading floor where everyone is, you've not even had your coffee or sat on your desk and everyone's already coming at you left, right, and center. That is a trading floor, right? So it depends on you as an individual and how money orientated you are. But for me, it's about a lot of things, not just money.
Okay. So even talking there about the money, you talk very much about, which I love, you're very
Yeah.
forthright, which I think a woman should always be, especially
Yeah.
navigating the career world. Otherwise, we will get
Yeah.
taken advantage of. But how
Mhm.
do you work out when it's those times to kind of be forthright, have the difficult conversation, or when
Mm.
it's a time where you should perhaps be a bit quieter and work in the
Mm.
background?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. Um, Obviously, when I joined the trading team, I knew it was a promotion, so therefore I had the right. I felt like I was doing a different job, therefore I should be getting paid X amount.
Mhm.
So part of the BNY Mellon Women's Network, because this is the great thing about networking, there was a director of HR for another asset management company that also comes under BNY, and I just asked her how much should I be getting paid,
Mm.
and you use that, you use your research that you've done, and then you say, okay, like this is my worth. This year, I decided that I wasn't going to complain because I kind of felt like every year I had told them my expectations. And if they didn't, quite frankly, give me what I wanted this year, then I can't keep, how can I put it? I can't keep going with a begging bowl. I want to then start looking elsewhere because that's my pride. Like, how many times am I going to keep asking for a pay rise? So what I did was I just had a look at the market and thought, okay, what figure do I want? And if I wasn't satisfied, I'd be like, I'm going to stop complaining now because actually I'm not being heard, and now's the time to move on. So
Mhm.
you've got to be at a point where either in a new job or you're doing something additional, or you know you're getting paid a lot less than the market, and that's really easy to find out. There's Glassdoor, there's recruitment agents. You should know your worth by basically going out there and benchmarking yourself against everyone else. The thing is, the difficult thing is when you're in a company for so long, like I have, and you've worked in different job roles, because your jump is never as much as if you jumped
Mhm.
to a different company. But, you know, then again, you've got to be able to argue the point of, this is where my stats are coming from. And I've had those difficult conversations. And I remember one of the heads saying to me, but who are you comparing it to? Because you're getting paid really well on the team and you're the least experienced. And I went, the market. I'm going out to the market. And when I got this trading position, I said, if I didn't get the best price for myself, I wouldn't be getting the best price for our trades. So the first person you got to negotiate for is yourself, because
Mhm.
no one's doing voluntary work here. We're all in the working game because yes, we love it. I love my job, but I still have to get paid. And in finance in particular, if you say that you really value me and you really value my work, then it's only been the only way you can show that is monetary. It's nowhere else,
Okay.
because I'm not actually getting gratitude from anywhere else. I'm actually just, it's the paycheck at the end. So yeah,
Mhm.
it's knowing your timings and when to ask for it and
Okay.
how to ask for it. A lot of people will just ask and say, I think I'm worth this, with no evidence or no, you know, you can't just pluck a number out of thin air. You've got to go in with, I'm very stern. So I'll be like, this is what the market is. This is what I want. And, you know, you just go there with factual. You take the emotion out. I take the emotion out and I go
Mhm.
all factual and I say, yeah, but everybody else is getting paid. Why am I not getting paid this much? So, yeah.
So how do you know when it's time to kind of keep pushing that financial conversation, or it's kind of like, well, I'm gaining maybe experience here, I'm making networks here.
Yeah.
How do you know when is the right time to accept the finance over the experience?
I think that when I first started, they said, you know, like, this is a great opportunity. I knew it was a great opportunity. You can still be grateful
Mhm.
and still want to get paid though, can't you? You know, it's not
Yes.
mutually exclusive. I'm starting a new job, very grateful for the opportunity, very grateful for learning, but also I want to get paid. That can happen at the same time.
Mhm.
I think with any job, unfortunately, it comes with years of experience. The longer you're in a job, the more bargaining power you have. And unfortunately, if you've got a bidding war going on your head, you know, where other asset managers are trying to pull me left, right, and center and giving me offers and trying to get me to go and work for them, then I'm going to be like, hey, everybody wants a piece of me. So, you know, who's going to pay me the most, kind of thing. That's, you've got to know. I love the people that I work with and I love my job. But at the same time, there'll be a point where if they're not paying me what I should be getting paid, then I'm going to have to go elsewhere. But as a 1.5 year trader, I don't think I'd be looking just yet. I think it's more having experience and being, you know, really good at your job, and then being like, right, this is how much I should get paid.
Mhm. It's something that I heard in a previous talk, and I've heard you alluding to it as well, this idea of basically it's not good enough to just be good at your job. If you want to kind of get where you need to be, you need to kind of excel. You need to show
Yeah.
that you're willing to go above and beyond. Does that ever stop?
So it depends on your personality. My personality is I will always look for the next challenge. And I always want to be the person in the room thinking of the new ideas that people haven't thought of. And I will carry on going until the company is a better place. And that will never stop. If you want your company to thrive, you've got to, and you want to be a part of that, then you better start thinking of ideas. And the thing is, it's always an advantage if you want to go over and beyond. And that is when you can actually ask for more money, because you can say, look, no one else has thought of this, and I've fully done this project on my own, and I've thought of these ideas, and I've pitched this idea. These are all the things that are evolving the company and benefiting the business. So I completely agree. I do feel like I always have to go in and think of and go over and beyond and think of new ideas. It's not always easy, but that does happen.
Well, I've been told that we'll have to start wrapping up now, but there was one more question I wanted to ask quickly, because you did mention it. What is part of Shrina's 5-year plan? What should we be expecting you to be doing when we see you in the next 5 years? What are some of the things on your to-do list still?
So, do you know what? I've planned so much, Sophie, and it's never gone according to plan. But
if it did go according to plan,
if it did, I'd be the head of my team and the head of fixed income trading at the asset managers that I'm working at right now. I think I'd like to have a house somewhere on the outskirts of Leicester, like a little cottage, because I think that would make me happy. I really like to do voluntary work and charity work, so I'd like to continue to be a mentor to others, and hopefully have something a bit more in my personal life, like a family of my own, which I think that sometimes as a career woman, it takes a step back because you're busy focusing on your career. So the 5-year plan is all of that, and to be happy every day.
Okay. And do you think you've had trouble finding the balance in that, or will find the trouble finding the balance? Do you think your work might need to stop or pause, or do you think you can have it all?
Yeah, no, I think I can have it all. Oh, I hate saying that, because I always say you can't have it all, but you can. Yeah, I do feel tired all the time is the only problem. Like, me trying to date and, go out after work with the banks and be really good at my job and have loads of hobbies and fit in my family and friends. But yeah, now I do think that there's a balance, and I think sometimes your career does plateau. But right now, I think I'm on the move up. So I'm going to stick to it for now.
Okay. Well, I wish I could spend more time talking to you, but we do have to wrap up. I just want to say thank you so much, Shrina, for sharing your experience and your insight and your advice. Just thank you so much. It's been really refreshing. This live is also going to be shared online for people who, if they weren't able to watch it live. And we also have some more talks coming up in the anti-racism series, which we'll let you know about later on. But Shrina, again, thank you so much for joining us.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sophie. Thank you.